Welcome to the Positive Sports Podcast. I'll be your host this afternoon, Ed Montana. Alongside me today, my brother from the same mother, my true brother, my brother Alex. Alex, how you doing?
What's up, Eddie?
Eddie,
Do people call you Eddie at all?
never. Actually,
Never.
the only people that call me Eddie are our cousins, right? Because we've known them since we were little kids and they've never stopped. Like they still call me Eddie, right? Like Jay, Liliana, and Adriana,
Really?
they all call me Eddie. No one else in my life calls me Eddie. Everyone else calls me Ed.
I'm gonna start calling you Eddie.
I'm
What's
okay
up,
with that.
Eddie?
It makes me feel a little younger, At some point, I
Does
switched
it?
over. At some point, I switched over to Ed to seem a little older. But now that I'm older, I want to seem a little younger. So I'm okay with Eddie.
You're hitting that midlife crisis.
Well, dude,
Soon,
I'm about to hit half a century.
soon we're gonna see Ed rolling down the street in a convertible.
That's right. A red convertible. Yeah, well, I can't afford a convertible, so maybe not. I tell you who can
What's up,
afford,
man?
huh?
Who's that? Who can afford a convertible now?
I bet Tom Brady can afford a convertible.
I bet Patrick Mahomes with 500 million can afford a few convertibles too.
Yeah, but no one's gonna give him one now that no one's gonna want to sell him one now that he blew it in the Super Bowl.
$500 million down the drain.
Well, I wouldn't say down the
What a
drain.
waste.
It's not a waste yet. I mean, he's got a few years on that deal,
Yeah, but it hasn't started off too well.
The sad thing is that most people will say what you just said, right? But the fact of the matter is they went 14-2. They pretty much ran through the playoffs and won the played in the Super Bowl, right? Which for most teams, that's a successful season. It's
Yeah.
kind of not for them, A, because people expected them to win, B, they were favored to actually win the Super Bowl, and C, the way the Super Bowl shook out, I
Yeah.
mean, they almost looked like they didn't belong there because Tampa Bay was, I mean, just beyond impressive. I'll ask you right now, what is the most surprising thing to you from the Super Bowl?
Oh man. I mean, I'm gonna go with what I think is the obvious answer. Might be a lot of people's answer. It's just how one-sided the game really looked for the most part. I'd say 75% of the game looked one-sided to me,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Really, from the second, you're right, because the second, third, and fourth quarter looked like Tampa Bay was going to win. We watched the game together. You made the comment about halfway through the second quarter. I don't remember exactly what the score was. Maybe it was 21-6. Maybe Tampa had just scored to make it 21-6. And you said to me, this game's over. And I thought, nah, I mean, 15's a big lead, but that's only two scores. Kansas City's really good on offense. This game's not over. But you were right, because the second half was really kind of pointless. I mean, the second half,
Yeah.
I mean, 21-6 would have been no different than 31-9. Like if the game would have ended at halftime, we would have been just as surprised, or we would have felt like it was Tampa Bay was just as dominant as we do now, having watched the second. The second half didn't add anything to the story. I'll tell you what, the most surprising thing to me, and I understand, and I'm not saying that Tom Brady didn't deserve the MVP, but the defense deserved the MVP, because this is the way I look at it. How many times has Tampa Bay scored 31 points this season? I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times. How many times has Tom Brady thrown for 3 touchdowns this season? 2, 3 times, maybe 4 times, right?
Right.
How many times have the Chiefs not scored a touchdown in an entire football game? I don't think I'm I haven't checked, but I am willing to bet a significant amount of money that that has not happened all year long. So really, to me, the true MVP is 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 the Tampa Bay defense, right? Tampa Bay scoring 31 points, Tom Brady throwing 3 touchdown passes, heck, Gronk catching 2 touchdown passes is not that special.
Yeah.
And at 31 points, 3 touchdown passes by Brady, a good Kansas City team, you figure might actually score more than 31, right? But the defense, I mean, not only did they not score a touchdown, they didn't make it to double digits. They lost by 22 points. Like, it's not like, if Tampa Bay had scored 55 and the Chiefs had scored 33, they lost 55 to 33, right? 22 points. You'd say, okay,
Right.
someone on the offense should get the MVP because the Kansas City offense did their job, right? Obviously, the Tampa Bay offense did a better job. But at 31-9, I mean, and I understand you can't give it to an entire unit, but wow, what a defensive game. And the thing that stood out to me the most is they did all of that with almost no blitzing. I go back through the
Yeah.
memory bank of the game. They didn't blitz very much. It was the front four that put all that pressure on the Chiefs. And I mean, you just can't say enough good things about the defensive game plan and the defensive execution of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I will say this: I was pretty disappointed with the Super Bowl, and I partially blame the Buccaneers because they were pretty damn good, and they kind of made it a boring game, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think when you watch that Super Bowl, like, you got to take into account Kansas City's offensive line wasn't healthy. They're missing a starting tackle. Home to a lot of running around. It was half because I really referees were had an effect on the game a little bit. I think they really did. Like, there was, don't get me wrong, Kansas City committed some penalties, but the fucking refs missed. I mean, they called a lot of phantom, not a lot, but several that affected field position. And that 21, what was it at halftime? 21-6?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that last touchdown was resulted from a penalty that, they could have only came away with a field goal. The game would have been a little closer. Maybe the Chiefs would have, wouldn't have felt so out of it, right? Because so I really didn't I didn't enjoy the first half that much because I really felt like the referees tucked their flags up their ass in the second half. Like, there were no flags in the second half. I don't understand. Like, so it was kind of weak, man. Like, I don't know. That was a really weird Super Bowl to me. And it was, as good as the Buccaneers were, I mean, you kind of got to credit the Chiefs for being banged up on the offensive line. I mean, if they have a healthy offensive line, do the Bucs get the same pressure on on Mahomes? I don't know. It was a weird Super Bowl. I didn't enjoy it. I thought, I don't know what was worse, the game or the commercials, but I don't know. It was a very Super Bowl to me.
Yeah, look, the question I have, and I don't know.
And look. I know people don't like to blame the referees, right? Or like people say, you play on the field and all that. Into the fucking stands, pass interference. The pass was not catchable. Then you had another one on that was being thrown to Evans, and like there's just a phantom PI called. Like, So that totally affected field position, and it allowed. I mean, so I thought the first half was pretty weak.
Yeah, the one thing that I question is, and I don't know this because I haven't played football. I've never played organized football, so I don't know. But so they lost their left tackle. The Chiefs lost their left tackle to injury in the Buffalo game in the AFC Championship. And now my understanding is they brought someone in to replace, but they moved the right tackle over to left tackle, and then they switched the guards too, and move the guard from the left, or the left guard. They moved the left guard over to right tackle and the right guard over to left guard, and then they brought in a new right guard. Like, I don't know if that's the way they normally do it, but it just seems to me like that's too much movement for a unit to be effective with only 2 weeks of preparation. It is 2 weeks, right? It's not a normal 1 week preparation. Maybe they don't do that if it's during the regular season. But it seems to me like if you lose your left tackle, and I understand that's the most important one, right? I can see moving the right tackle over to left tackle, bring a new guy in to play right tackle. But to do all the other switching with the guards, that to me seemed like that just seemed dumb to me. And again, I don't know. Maybe someone can tell us, right? But that seemed that just seemed silly to me. And so I I put that I give the Bucs credit for what they did, because at the end of the day, that was the Chiefs' choice, right? To handle the injury that way. And yeah, the injury is kind of out of their control, but they still, the way they handled the injury, that's their fault. And then Mahomes, look, Mahomes obviously had some mobility issues. He was he was not as mobile as he normally is. You could tell he was a little bit afraid to run down the field. I mean, he'd do all the scrambling behind the line of scrimmage that he needed to do, but he wasn't willing to run forward very much. He did it a couple of times in the first quarter, and then after that, he really didn't do it the rest of the game. I don't know if you noticed that. His rushes were all in the first quarter, second quarter, early second quarter. After that, he didn't go forward at all. Um, so, that's another issue. The referee issue, look, they, to me, they committed those penalties. The only one that I have a real problem with is the offside on the field goal attempt, because the way NFL teams line up for a field goal, they all line up kind of in a almost in a V formation, and of course the defensive guys come as close to they stand, they get down one football length from the person in front of them. So if the offense is in a V formation, kind of coming back, the defense is in a V formation, kind of coming forward, right? So you can call offside on field goal kicks on just about every single field goal, because they all do it. So why they called it there, I thought that was kind of dumb. The PIs, I mean, they all look like pass interference, and it's one of those things where you could probably call pass interference on 90% of the pass plays out there, or defensive holding on 90% of the pass plays out there. They called them in the second quarter. They didn't call them in the second half, but that could also be that the Chiefs adjusted, right? The Chiefs said, okay, they're calling everything. We gotta keep our hands to ourselves. So the thing about the referees doesn't bother me as much, except for the one on the field goal. The one on the field goal bothers me, because that you could call offside on every field goal attempt. Go look it up. Go look up field goal attempts for this season, and you'll see, especially on longer ones where they're trying to get some pressure because they figure they can make them miss it. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback ever now? Can we just settle that debate?
Yeah, I think he's been for a while now, since probably he won his fifth one or fourth one. I mean, there's nothing to debate anymore. I don't know. I haven't been debating it really. I mean, but I will say this for all the people that talk shit about Eli Manning. Okay, two things. All right, it doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is behind that offensive line. If your offensive line is doo doo, that's what you're gonna get. So it doesn't matter if it's Eli Manning or Patrick Mahomes. That's that's the result you get right. And number two, for everybody saying Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls thanks to the defense. Well, I hope people are saying the same about Tom Brady. Yeah, he threw for 2 touchdowns. All right.
3.
But that fucking defense, whatever, 3, 4, 5, I don't care how many touchdowns he threw. If that defense doesn't play the way it plays, then Kansas City might be scoring points. So the fact that you said the defense deserves MVP, and I think a lot of people were saying the defense deserved, Devin White deserved MVP. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that, he was kind of carried in this one. He was kind of carried by the defense a little bit. He didn't have to do much. He didn't have to fucking throw 2 touchdowns. So that's all I got to say about that.
To be fair, though, I don't think anyone carried anyone. I mean, it was a complete team effort, right? I mean, both sides of the ball did their job.
People say now, did the Ravens in 2000, did Trent Dilfer carry the Ravens?
No, but
did that defense carry the Ravens?
Well, but that's a little bit different. That's a little bit different because the defense, they didn't just do it in the Super Bowl. The defense did it throughout, right? And he wasn't scoring. He didn't score 31 points. He didn't throw however many touchdown passes Brady threw this year. I mean, that's completely, I think that's very, very different. It's not like they won 10-9, right? If they won 10-9, then you say, okay, they rode the defense. But I mean, they scored 31 on their own. So, you got to give both sides of the ball credit in this one.
Thanks to the refs, yes, they scored 31. A little help from the refs, yes, they scored 31. True. Call a spade, bro. It is what it is. The fucking refs had a part in that game, obviously.
Every single.
I don't care what anybody says. Look, I got no problem being that guy. I will be that guy.
Every offense in the NFL benefits from the ref. They all do it. They all. Heck, there are teams that just bank on the ref, right?
Ed, the fact that a 15-year-old kid in your house who's played only one season of the highest level of football that he's played is junior high school, noticed the difference in the first half of these zebras throwing flags, and then they were non-existent in the second half. The fact that he noticed that,
yeah,
I rest my case and I'm done talking about it.
Hold on a second. Here's my rebuttal to your case. He was rooting for the Chiefs.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who he was rooting for. I wasn't rooting for anybody, and we saw the same thing. So
he was biased. He was very biased. By halftime, he was done with the game. Fine. He was, but by halftime, he was like, "Forget it." He's like, "Forget it. It's over." He was like you. It's over. Now, some of the other argument I've heard, or some of the other debate I've heard, is Tom Brady the greatest team athlete of all time?
Is he? I don't know. What do you think?
It's hard to it's hard to put him. It's hard to compare across sports, right? Like, so the obvious comparison comes with Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan won 6 rings, never lost in the finals. But in basketball, right, Michael Jordan plays offense and defense. In basketball, you can control who gets the ball in crunch time. Whereas in football, it's, if the other team has the ball, you can't really control it. Your defense has to help you out to get the ball back for you. And in basketball, you've got a roster of 12. In football, you've got a roster of 55. Um, you know, Michael Jordan plays 40 minutes a game, which is roughly, let's see, it's more than 75% of the game. Tom Brady plays half the game, right? So it's
Right.
really hard to compare. Um, and I'm actually not going to say one way or the other because I think it's just too difficult to compare. What I will say is, as a leader, Tom Brady is just an incredible leader of men. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks with a lot of talent fall on their face because they couldn't lead. And Tom Brady is talented as well. Not like Patrick Mahomes, of course, but he is an incredible leader of men. The fact that Gronk came out of retirement to go play with him in Tampa says something about that. And just the way he led that team, that camaraderie that he has with his fellow teammates is incredible. And in football, probably more than in other sports, you have to be a great leader. And Tom Brady is very much that. What do you think?
Yeah. It's Tom Brady. There's
Would
nothing
you,
else to say, really.
would you consider him a greater athlete than Michael Jordan? Team sports athlete.
Uh, probably not.
Wayne
Probably
Gretzky.
not. Probably not.
Um, Basketball. Who would be the greatest in baseball?
Uh,
It's really
shit.
hard in baseball.
I don't know.
If you
No, because
stop,
I don't. No, because I don't really view him as. No, I wouldn't say he's a better athlete than Jordan or Gretzky.
that's an interesting conversation. In baseball, it's really hard to be the greatest, right? Because if you're a starting pitcher, the most dominant position is pitcher, right? But if you're a starting pitcher, you play once every 5 games. If you go to the next most dominant position, it would be catcher, right? Because you're involved in every pitch. But it's hard as a catcher, A, to have longevity, and B, to be good over a long period of time is difficult. And then if you go to just straight up hitter, like, you only bat 4 times a game, and
Yeah.
and you don't dictate whether you come up to bat in the key moments, right? Like if you made the first out in the 8th inning, and then the next 2 guys behind you made outs, you're going to be 7th up in the 9th inning of a 1-run game. You may not get the chance to win the game like Jordan does, or even like Brady with a game-winning drive. You know what I mean? So in baseball, it's just about impossible to be the greatest if you think
Yeah.
across sports.
Right. Yeah.
Soccer,
I don't know. Huh?
soccer is the other one. Greater than Pele, greater than Maradona.
See, when I think, like, when somebody asks or somebody says, greatest athlete, I'd probably put a soccer player up there, basketball, hockey. I mean, I don't know. An immobile quarterback, I don't know if I really put them up there as athlete. I would say Tom Brady is probably the greatest quarterback ever, but when I think athlete for quarterbacks, I think Michael Vick. I think he's an athlete.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, maybe.
Right.
I mean,
It's funny.
they got to move around. They got to move around a little bit more, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
It's funny. I think Tom Brady is still, in terms of this conversation, Tom Brady is still handicapped by those draft combine numbers, right? Before he was even in the NFL. And that
Yeah,
picture of him standing there with no shirt on, he's got a little bit of a gut, you know?
yeah,
Like, that's why people will never call him an athlete. Even if he runs around in the pocket and whatnot, they still don't think of him as an athlete.
yeah. But he won't. I mean, he's just not that type of quarterback. He's
Yeah.
never been, you know, and that's fine. He's done well not being that type of quarterback. So,
Well,
but I
the
mean,
most the
you
most
know,
important thing for a quarterback is his arm, right? And the fact of the
yeah,
matter is that guy's 43, and that pass he threw to Antonio, was it Antonio Brown? The slant in the end zone.
yeah.
He he put that ball exactly where he wanted to put it, and he put it there with a shit ton of zip on it because the defensive player was there. If he throws that chest high, the defensive player probably can get his hand in and disrupt it, but he threw it low so that Antonio Brown had to slide to catch it, and the defensive player had no shot. And so, I mean, and that he put some mustard on that thing. He threw that ball hard. I was like, damn, he
Well, I
could
mean,
still sink it.
I'm sure the defensive player knew that, the refs would probably call a fucking pass interference. So they were like, let's give him 5 feet. Let's social distance from the wide receivers.
Hey, maybe that's what the refs were doing. Maybe that's why they threw those flags. They wanted some social distancing.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Hey, you mentioned the commercials. I mean, everyone on Madison Avenue should get fired, right? Madison Avenue is where all the advertising firms are. They should all get fired.
Right.
I can only think of one commercial. Actually, I can only think of two commercials that I remember and were kind of good. The one with Matthew McConaughey, where he was like a piece of paper, and then he was in the vending machine and he ate a Dorito and he exploded to a real person, so he was stuck in the vending machine. That one was good.
Right.
The E-Trade commercial, right, where the E-Trade commercial where the chick is flexing, she won some kind of title, she's holding a belt,
Mhm.
and she flexes and she's got big muscles, and this little scrawny 10-year-old kid is in there, and he's like, oh, I got it. He looks at his arm, and then he starts training, and you see him picking stuff up and hurting himself and whatnot. Those are the only two that I even remember. Do you have any that you?
Yeah, I don't. No, listen, from an entertainment standpoint, the game and the commercials to me were the commercials were subpar. The
Beyond
game
subpar?
was, medium.
The,
Huh?
the commercials were beyond subpar. They were. I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
say they were
The
awful.
commercials were really bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, the commercials were bad.
and I don't know if it's COVID or what, but please stop with the CGI. Just stop. Just stop it. Stop it. I don't need to see Vince Lombardi give a speech anymore in a halftime commercial. Like, what the fuck? You know what?
But see,
You know what my family's going to do? My family is going to compile all of these podcasts that we do, and they're going to make a CGI version of me when I die so that they always have me. Right? They're going to watch a soccer game.
that would be kind of cool.
They're going to watch a soccer game, and all of a sudden the VAR is going to come up, and all of a sudden a hologram of me is going to show up in CGI talking about the VAR like I have on this podcast. They're going to be like, it's like watching the game with dad again.
But that would be some freaky shit. Like if they CGI'd you at your funeral, right? And you got some little kid who they just said, hey, this person died, right? And then they're like, wait, he's right there. What the hell's going on? Like that would be some crazy shit,
Grandpa.
But see, as a sports fan, the Vince Lombardi one, I can appreciate that one. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, it's got to do with sports. It's Vince Lombardi. It's him giving. I forgot about that one. I didn't mind that one so much, but the other ones, I'm like, nah, whatever.
Yeah, but I don't want to. I don't want to see. I don't want to see a football speech given to me by a fake Vince Lombardi. right? Show me what he said back
Well,
in
you
the
can't
day.
have the real Vince Lombardi.
No, but you can, right? You can show me clips of what he said back in the day, back in 1960 before he died.
There was no fucking video cameras back then.
No, there's clips of him saying stuff, right?
I know.
But like I just the CGI, they CGI'd Samuel L. Jackson in a commercial. That dude's still alive. If he didn't want
Yeah,
to do
then it's
if he didn't want to do the commercial because of COVID, hey, fucking call me. I'll do it.
yeah.
Hit me up on Twitter at eMontana21 about doing a commercial, and I will go live and do it. I'll wear my mask,
Well,
commercial, and then we'll do the commercial.
I don't know if you would pass for Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, then have me pass for some other dude like I don't know, George Clooney.
Nicolas Cage. You could do a Nicolas Cage.
There you go. I mean, if you mess up my hair right, I could be Nicolas Cage, right? Instead of CGI, fuck it, just get someone who looks close.
Yeah.
Hey,
Huh?
we can't risk having the real Nicolas Cage out here getting COVID and dying, but you just have a podcast. We'll risk you.
We can afford to lose you to society.
That's right. For the good of a Super Bowl commercial, we'll do it. Yet, if you think about the game, the commercials, and the halftime show, I would say the Weeknd killed it. They're the best part of they're the best one of the three because that halftime show was lit. I liked it. I'm not quite sure what the deal was with.
I actually like.
Not sure what the deal was with all those people with their heads wrapped, but it was still good.
Yeah. Halftime show wasn't too bad.
The funniest thing about the halftime show was we were eating, right? We were loading up on more food, right? And each song that comes up, you go, "Oh, I know that song. Oh, I know that song. Oh, I heard that song too. I didn't realize the Weeknd sings it." Nothing says I'm an old fart like, "Oh, I know that song."
Yeah. And this whole time, I thought the Weeknd was more than one person.
Right.
And the Weeknd is just
it's one dude,
one guy.
With a
I didn't know that.
mustache. I mean, the mustache killed it. I like the mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Maybe you thought it was more than one guy because the weekend is more than one day, right? Sometimes it's actually 3 days.
Right.
Sometimes you get lucky and have a 4-day weekend, right? So you assume
That's
it's
right.
more people. Whereas if you said weekday, well, that's just one day during the week.
Yeah.
We should start our own group, The Week.
The Week?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We'd get a lot of hit on YouTube because then people would start making fun of our name, and instead of WEEK, they'd spell it WEAK. This group, The Week is weak. Hey, but you know what they say?
You never know, man.
Love us or hate us, just feel about us.
That's right. So what do you think the Chiefs and the Bucs need to do to get back to the Super Bowl?
Look, I think the Chiefs just the way they are right now. I don't know what contract situations they have, but the way it's constructed right now, if they keep all of those guys or a majority of those guys, they can go again. Absolutely. Again, I don't want to put too much on injuries, but that game might be different if their offensive line is intact and Mahomes isn't injured. I think the Mahomes injury is bigger than he's let on, which kudos to him, right? He's not making any excuses. So they are, in my opinion, they are so far ahead of the rest of the AFC that, I think they could very easily make it back. Very easily sounds too easy, but I think they could. I think they could very easily make it back. I'm not a huge believer in Buffalo. I think this year they were really good, but I'm afraid they may take a step back next year, just because people may start to figure them out. And then there's really no one else in the AFC that scares me for Kansas City, right? Could they get knocked off? Sure, but there's no one that you would say you would automatically take against them. For the Bucs have quite a few contract issues, right? Um, and Tom Brady is going to be a year older. Obviously, you can't replace him, or it's not going to work. But I wonder. I wonder what's going to happen with that team, and I think it's more evenly matched throughout the NFC, so it's harder for them to get there. I don't see any huge holes on Tampa Bay, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think the Chiefs are gonna. We might see the Chiefs, and this might be overreaction Monday, but we might see the Chiefs take a step back. Maybe now they're figured out. You know what I'm saying? That defense is not. The defense played well, in my opinion, which is why I thought they were gonna stay in the game. Was gonna be part of the reason they were gonna be in the Super Bowl, right? Like,
Right.
stay in the game. But then the defense kind of, didn't play too well. They committed a lot of penalties. I don't know. They may need to. Maybe the Andy Reid era needs to. Maybe that guy needs to take care of home a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he needs to take a break or something. Maybe just a break and come back. But they definitely need to fix that offensive line, because Eric Fisher's not young either. You know what I'm saying? He's been in
Yeah.
the league for a while. So that's, now, you paid Patrick Mahomes a whole lot of cash. You got to protect that guy. I mean, if it's one thing the Patriots did was intact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't the greatest offensive line, but I mean, they made sure that Tom Brady stayed upright. So if you're gonna have Patrick Mahomes around for years to come, you got to protect him. And I think, and Eric Fisher is just one position. They may need to that whole offensive line may need to be kind of reworked a little bit. So
Yeah, that's probably the most glaring weakness they have. And their secondary could probably use an upgrade at a position or two. I think that got a bit exposed. But I mean, they're still a
yeah,
really good football team. I wonder how many times Mahomes is going to have to rework that contract to accommodate getting more talent, because that contract is huge.
yeah.
He's a huge hit.
Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know.
Speaking of huge hits,
I don't know.
speaking of huge hits, if you want to catch this huge hit called the Positive Sports Podcast, you can catch it on YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, Podbean, and on Spotify, because we're a huge hit. So catch us there. Whatever your podcast platform of choice is. If they want to get a hold of you, Alex, and commiserate about the referees, how do they do that?
On Twitter at Brooklyn Gaucho 1.
And I mentioned it earlier, for all you Madison Avenue firms that want to use real people in your commercials next year, you can reach me on Twitter as well at eMontana21. Any other big takeaways from the Super Bowl, Alex?
No, I wish there were, but I mean, no, not really. Not on my part. You?
Well, aside from all the food I ate, I took away a lot of food because, I mean, we grilled up a bunch of meat here, and you brought sandwiches over, cold cuts for sandwiches. I ate a ton. I must have put on 5 pounds. Geez.
It was good.
It was fantastic. We had food probably for 10 people, and there were 4 of us. So 5 of us. It's ridiculous. We had twice as much food as we needed. But so that was my biggest takeaway. And I'm talking just in terms of sheer weight. That was my biggest takeaway. But
Right.
the only other takeaway I have is, really hats off to Tampa Bay. They, it obviously it wasn't a huge chance, but they did take a chance, right? They took a chance that Tom Brady was not in severe decline, and they went for it this year and they got it right. They pushed all their chips into the middle of the table. They went all in, and it worked. And look, there's nothing better. There's nothing better for a franchise than that, right? And as a fan, like if you're a Tampa Bay fan, you got to be ecstatic because back last summer when Tampa Bay pushed all their chips in to get Tom Brady, as a Tampa Bay fan, you were like, yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then it actually happens, right? That's got to be a great feeling. I'm not a Tampa Bay fan, but I bet they're having a hell of a good time right now, and they are ecstatic. The other takeaway I have is apparently in this new COVID world, look, if you're not in LA or Tampa Bay, you ain't winning a championship. So everyone else can just go home now, right? In the NBA, look,
That's right.
in the NBA, they should just go ahead and have the finals between the Clippers and the Lakers because there's no team in Tampa Bay. So everyone else can just go home. Maybe Miami will get a little rub just by being in Florida or Orlando, right? But
Right.
it's between the Lakers and the Clippers. And in hockey, it's between the Kings and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And in baseball, it's going to be the Rays and the Dodgers. I mean, look, that's just the way it is in the pandemic world.
Pretty much. I mean, that's pretty accurate.
Hey, I saw all those cardboard cutouts in the stands. Apparently, you can pay to be a cardboard cutout. Would you ever pay? And if so, how much would you pay to be at the Super Bowl?
I would pay exactly the cost to get a piece of cardboard.
Do they send you the cardboard back?
Zero.
Like, do they send you the cardboard back? Do they mail it back to you after the game? So, if you pay an extra fee, do they go ahead and mail it to you? Because I would want it, and then I would put it around the house, right? Oh, I'd put it up on my wall behind me.
Well, no, they probably throw it away, and then if you want to get back, into the, the cardboard cutout scene, you got to pay again. They got to make their money, man. Revenue.
I'd feel bad if they threw me out. Now all of a sudden I'm in a trash can. That's not cool.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, whatever, man. Look, they got to make their money. I probably wouldn't. I don't know. It depends. I wouldn't pay for it. Nah. I mean, fuck that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. But I mean, I think it's kind of dumb. Like, what's the difference? Like, it doesn't look that much different than if the stands were empty or covered up by a tarp. So I don't see what the big deal is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a Super Bowl with empty seats would be kind of weird, though.
I mean, they had 22,000 fans there. That's 22,000 more than I expected. But of course, in Florida, Florida's going to do Florida shit. They don't care about COVID, man. They're like, whatever. I'm surprised it was only 22, actually, because it was in Tampa.
All righty, man. Let's wrap this puppy up.
Sounds good, man. Like I mentioned earlier, you can catch our podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever podcast platform you choose. And as always, folks, ignore the negativity, be the positivity.